So, hey guys, Chelsea here. And yeah, I wanted to talk a bit about the new treasure map units on JP, the new treasure map Shiryu, and his boosters. And yeah, as you know, I made a video about all the upcoming TMs and the boosters earlier this week. And yeah, I figured instead of waiting a few months and doing a video, I'll just do them as the info comes out. And yeah, as far as the booster batch goes, I'd say it's pretty damn good. All of them are worth getting, at least for the support. Some are pretty good units too. And yeah, compared to the other upcoming TMs, I'd still say that Treasure Map Queen and Treasure Map Komurasaki, their booster batch stands out. But yeah, this one is at least more desirable in general than Treasure Map Luffy Ace and Treasure Map Garp. So yeah, it's a bit in the middle. I'm a big fan of it though. Very cool to get new Blackbeard crewmate units, and I'll say right away that these are the new best units for all 4 characters, so that's very exciting. So yeah, let's take a look. And first, credits to Matt for compiling the info, and of course Koala-san for translating. I did some early translating for all units. I usually do that since, yeah, Koala-san can't just translate right away. I can read Japanese, so I just do a rough translation, and yeah, I usually get it right, so yeah, makes me happy every time. But yeah, let's get into Shiryu. He's a slasher-driven unit. He has some nice limit break potential abilities, with Barry Pen standing out, of course, one of the best limit break abilities in the game. Ship Bind is pretty nice since it's niche, but yeah, if it's not useful, it doesn't do anything, so yeah. He has a pretty good captain, 3.75 times for slasher and driven, and reduced 2 turns of despair. Yeah, pretty good. One of the better free-to-play captain abilities. The new treasure map units usually have the best free-to-play captain abilities there is to get. Let's move on to his special. It's pretty decent. He does a 20% HP cut to one enemy, ignores any defensive abilities, removes 4 turns of attack down and paralysis, removes all poison, and he does a 2 times color affinity boost for driven and slasher, and he reduces damage by 90%. So yeah, it's a pretty diverse kit. And yeah, the first thing that stands out is that he only removes 4 turns of debuffs. But if you add in that 90% damage reduction, you can remove 4 turns, you can use it, you can stall a bit, do some damage with extra affinity. So yeah, it has some potential, and I want to point out right away that if you get one of the new treasure map boosters who has a paralysis removing support, Shiryu can remove 6 turns of paralysis instead. So that's something to keep in mind. He also has a nice Sailor ability where driven and slashers feel treat Psy orbs as beneficial. Always very good to have more matching orbs, especially Psy orbs, since of course, yeah, if you're on an int focus team, then Psy orbs are unmatching. So this makes them matching instead. And yeah, this is something new for TM free-to-play units. He has an actual support ability, which is actually really good. If you get poisoned, you remove that poison and you heal 2000 HP, like whoa. And it's for any int unit. And the fun thing with this is that it was just data mine that Doffy2 is returning on JP. And yeah, it's going to be so easy to make teams without poison sockets when any int unit can remove poison now. Like a unit like Pudding. Pudding is one of the best units you can run for Doffy 2 nowadays. And she makes it a lot easier to run a poison removal support since you get a lot of seed reductions, you don't have to stall as much. And yeah, now Pudding can just remove poison herself. It's insane actually. So yeah, I'm very happy that Offer 2 is coming back, because I was afraid that we just have the forest forever. So yeah, when Revo 2 and Offer 2 go away for a few months, I can have a lot of fun with the forests, and then I can go back to Offer 2 when it comes back, and I can play around with this new treasure map Shiryu 2, make lots of teams with int units removing poison and stuff. It's going to be really fun. So yeah, the support is actually what excites me most about him. The special is pretty good, but he doesn't really stand out compared to the best treasure map units. But yeah, the best Shiryu unit in the game. So yeah, it's nice. I also want to point out that this goes for all units, that we have the V2 Blackbeard support. It's a 2.5 times attack for any of his crew. So if you run it on Shiryu, you get 2 times color affinity, and he can get that 2.5 times attack boost for himself. So that's very cool. Same goes for all of the units we're going to look at now. Now we have Doc Q. He should be the lowest booster, so if Global keeps the lowest booster guaranteed, this is the one you can get for 130 gems. And I'll say right away that he's definitely worth it when the time comes. So yeah, Doc Q is a side-driven slasher unit. No special limit break abilities or anything. So let's look at the special. 10 CD, very nice. So the special reduces resilience by 3 turns, damage threshold by 3 turns. He changes block, empty, and badly matching to matching, and you get a 1.75 times attack boost for 1 turn. And yeah, that might sound bad, but you have to think about units like this as a utility unit. And this is basically a utility unit that can remove some debuffs and also gives a free offensive buff in the process. So those are very valuable. Sadly, the debuffs that Doc Q removes aren't that special. Like, of course, removing threshold damage reduction is nice, but 3 turns, a lot of units can do that. So yeah, but yeah, you can definitely see use. But what's more exciting about Doc Q is his support. He adds 5% of stats to Blackbeard, and when you hit a perfect, you reduce 1 turn of damage threshold. And I want to point out that at the moment on Global, only 1 unit has a support like that. It's Law with the Quick Beppo. And on JP, they also have the treasure map Frankie that I talked about in my last video, that can be attached to Usopp and Komurasaki, same effect. And now we have this Doc Q for Blackbeard, so that means only 4 units in the game has this support. And the hitting perfects to remove debuffs is honestly one of the better support abilities you can get, since it can be used several times in a run, and it can potentially remove a lot of turns depending on if you can stall and such. So it's just very versatile, and yeah, it makes every Blackbeard unit better except for Weavon Blackbeard, because he doesn't care about damage threshold. So yes, super exciting. I definitely think you should pick him up on Global later if he's 130 games. Of course, on JP, you aren't guaranteed any particular unit, but yeah, getting any of these 3 new units on JP is also very nice value. So definitely some things to consider. So yeah, let's move on to the next one, Lafitte. He's a driven shooter. He also has barrier penetration. We take those. And yeah, he has a pretty decent special. He reduces 5 turns of bind and attack down, and gives a color affinity boost for driven and cerebrals by 1.75 times. It's kind of weird that it's driven and cerebral, since he's a driven and shooter, but okay. So yeah, it's 1.75 times boost, and in TM is 2.25s. As said before, this is the new standard for TM boosters. Gone are the days of only boosting in TM. Now they have a little bit lower boost outside of TM, but again, if you use this guy, You mainly use it if you for utility, you want to remove bind and attack down, and you get a free offensive boost with color affinity. That's the best way to look at units like this. So yeah, he can definitely see some use with that. And he also has a very nice support. And it can be attached to any driven unit. So when the supported unit uses a special, driven characters get a 1.3 times color affinity boost. Very nice. It's like the treasure map Weavy from treasure map booster Weavy from treasure map Namisanji. Same effect, except that was free spirit. This is driven. So yeah, it's just nice to have potential to add extra damage. So yeah, very cool. And let's move on to Fun Auger. The last booster is probably not the highest point booster. And I'll say right away that this Fun Auger is very impressive. I'd say he might be the best treasure map booster as a unit for like the last half year. So yeah, let's take a look at him. He's also a driven shooter, slot bind reduction, 5 turns I think. Very nice. 12 CD. And his special reduces 5 turns of paralysis. He locked the orbs for 1 turn. He reduces damage by 50% for 1 turn. He boosts damage against enemies with reduced defense by 1.75 times for 1 turn. And if your crew has 5 or more driven characters, you set the defense to 0 for 1 turn. So that's just so much in one special. Super cool. So yeah, you both reduce paralysis, you lock the orbs. Orb block is super good. I wouldn't say it's underrated nowadays. I think people realize it's good and they are starting to add it more on specials. I love it. You also get some damage reduction. And of course the self-proccing conditional. Of course you have to run a driven team. And a few months ago that had been like a deal breaker. But it's getting increasingly easy to make driven teams like versus Akainu, the new Moria, the new Magellan, V2 Kaido, like there's a lot of them. And of course we have old favorites like Bullet and such, so yeah, it's getting increasingly easy. Driven has got a lot of love the past 2 months on JP. I love it. He has a nice sailor too. Shooter characters will treat Sai as beneficial. Not bad, we take those. And support is also pretty nice. When you get inflicted with paralysis, you reduce it by 2 turns, and it can be put on Blackbeard, Pizarro, Devon, and Shiryu. I think it's very weird it's not for every Blackbeard crewmate. I don't really understand why, but yeah, at least Pizarro and Devon gets a support unit. Like they didn't really have anything, like the new Wolf, Arena Wolf had a supporter, remember, but that's it. So now we have 4 more units that can just reduce paralysis. And you might think it sounds bad that it only reduces paralysis, but yeah, it's situational. It gives more options. Like if only removing paralysis means you don't proc it. If you, for example, V1 Rayleigh and Corazon, they remove paralysis, bind, and the spear. So if stage 4 has the spear, you trigger it. And stage 5 has paralysis, you can trigger it there, but this one will bypass that and last until the final stage. So it's useful in that way. So yeah, big fan of these. All these supports are very worth getting. The actual units are pretty good. This one Auger in particular, super good, very nice. I love what they're doing with Treasure Map nowadays. We also have the new Virgo. All I'm going to say about him, he's the new, free-to-play Rumble unit. All I say about him is that I read his special. His special does not do an attack boost. His special does not do an ore boost. So this Virgo is complete trash and will never be used. Joke aside, that's about... I was making a joke about the upcoming Caesar support on Global. It's one of the best supports in the game. And it can be attached to Virgo, but it only works if the unit does an attack boost or an ore boost, and sadly this Virgo does neither. He still looks okay. reduce defense to 0, does some damage to all enemies, reduces some attack down, chain coefficient and chain lock, and -1 CD. Like, yeah, resist special rewind too. So yeah, he looks fine. I have no problems with him, but of course if he could run the Caesar support, he'd been a lot more interesting. So yeah, I think that's all for this video. Thanks for hearing me out, guys. See you next time.